you're running a stable frame rate and motion around it actually gives you the perception that it feels so much smoother, so much increase the visibility, increase the smoothness and actual gameplay moving around quickly. So it's pretty nice bit. But it's fully optional, you can disable it. And it costs a little bit of performance also to do this, especially as the effect is an HDR. So the HDR part is important because it keeps the bright light sources, they become like long lines, long streaks now, so the HDR, which is much more colorful. And much more realistic. So here we have extreme, the extreme post-processing which is color grading. This is just for a frame. I was pretty lucky just grabbing this specific screenshot here. Just for a frame when the explosion goes off. It's not enough that the explosion just lights up the environment. It also changes very, very briefly the color of the screen by tinting everything through a 3D volume picture to look at. And we use this color grading for other types of more nuanced approaches. And here we have the extreme combination of pixels. This is while running, so there's a little bit of motion blur, and there's a blur on the screen because you can hit. Which can be a little bit annoying, but also an important part of it. There's a magnetic effect, you can desaturate the screen and add some strawberry on the sides. Okay, so I've got quite a lot of different systems we have and different types of visual effects and how all of those interact. So here's a sort of a breakdown of our scenes and how we end up with this final picture. So this is the goal of the picture. So we start with something like this. Not very impressive, but very important key detail. Having a green there. It has a lot of detail on it, but it doesn't look that sexy here. But it has this is without any lighting at all. So this is pretty much what we're running into a G-buffer in the beginning. So we start with some terrain. We add composite meshes, which are meshes that can be destroyed or be affected. There are multiple parts of them. They're composite and multiple meshes pretty much. So they have all of the man-made buildings here, pretty much. We also have our rigid meshes. A rigid mesh is just pretty much a static mesh that has no parts, which is like the rocks here and some smaller details and smaller parts, things like that. Then we have foliage, not that much foliage in this game, but there's just some of it. We also have decals, which is the thing, just a couple of decals here on the sides of the wall systems. And then, when we rendered those passes before, we actually rendered to the G-buffer, we're actually rendering to these four different types of buffers. So while we were doing that, we actually rendered out this G-buffer normals also, as well as the specular term and the smoothness term for the environment. So we actually have rendered out all of those things. And then in the next pass, oh yeah, we actually have a sky visibility chart, so that one, which is because there's multiple things. The trees are blue here because I have translucency effect on them, and the rest of them are red because in the red is the intensity of the red is pretty much how visible the sky is for that specific pixel. So we use that for lighting to affect how visible. Yeah. And then once that is done, we render out that G-buffer with all the objects. We start with our lighting. So this is rendering out the light for the sky and for the bounce light that you saw before, and combining both of them on all the objects. So you see here, there's no sunlight at all in this video, but you see some bounce from the sun actually. You see some brighter areas in the scene. And you see there's a general blue tint also because the sky is generally quite blue here. Then we have the sunlight on top of everything, and now you have something that looks like a perfect white environment pretty much, with just sun in the sky and bounce lighting. And then the final lighting stage is to add also a couple of local light sources. So switch between those. It's just a couple of light sources in this specific scene. Some other scenes are dominated by these light sources, which are typically fog lights or spotlights or line lights in the environment here. And now once we have done all of this lighting, actually, then we combine the lighting with the G-buffer, the diffuse term, the specular terms, and the other terms of light. So we get this combined picture. This actually looks like a standard game screenshot pretty much, except it doesn't have the sky, so that's how it's going to work. So now we're actually rendering in HDR. We've combined all of these buffers, the lighting and the colors, and rendering the sky. So now we're rendering in HDR, combining all these terms and just adding more stuff on top of it. So we added the sky, but you sort of see a pretty harsh border between the sky and the landscape. So we have some atmospheric scattering as well in the scene to make it sort of fit into the river. So now we have a scene that I think it actually fits in pretty well, but the actual colors here look pretty odd. So So, oh yeah, we don't have sun. So we have the sun and some of the glare effects, which is sort of part of the visual style of VSG. And then the blue that I talked about was super apparent on the screen, but we added in the end here always that also it has a little bit of hint, and it also smooths out some of the hard edges that we have in the environment, at least in the storyline. And then the final is color grading, which is a specific artistic choice on this level that they wanted to have a cold feeling, because you're quite high up. This is the level where you base jump. You base jump down to this direction, you're still up in the mountain, so it's cold. And so they saturated the picture a bit and emphasized the blue color as well. So that's sort of so we build up the entire frame of VSG. So, also something, I have a final section of the talk just talking about a little bit, mixed up a little things about graphics and graphics options and performance. So here's a list of, well, if you play the beta, you probably saw similar stuff here, although in the beta, not all of the graphics options worked, so we kind of a little bit broken. We fixed it up now, we found out beta is primarily intended for testing the back end and the multiplayer before gameplay. So, and overall, our graphics options we have 4 major categories of low quality, medium, high, and ultra. So, this sort of to give people an idea of how we intended these options to be used. Low is really, well, of course, it's the absolute lowest possible graphics, but as we have a multiplayer game, we can't scale it down and make it look too bad. Well, it has to look respectable in general, because we can't make a game that looks just absolute shit on the lowest levels. And people have some kind of graphics card still want to be able to play it and have a good experience. But even more importantly, in a multiplayer game, you can't just disable everything. You can't just, because that increases the visibility of it too much. If you disable all the particles and disable all the shadows, it becomes like Quake Arena. And that might be fun in itself, but it's not really fair to play a multiplayer game the visual style that we have. So we have a pretty high min spec in general for the game of 8800 GT card. That's sort of designed for this low detail. You might not have the best absolute experience, of course, but the game will run, and it won't be too unfair in multiplayer. That's the ideal. Then we have the medium setting. There we actually enable a lot of graphics options that we have, but not all of them. We use the SSA or the shaper stuff, and this is sort of intended for mid-range DX10 cards that are quite a bit better than the 8800, not as good as the new DX11 cards. But we can skip a bit of tricky visual quality. We then also have the high graphics mode. That's really what gaming is designed for. It's designed for people to use that because you get good frame rate from it. But it's always a personal preference. Do you want 60 FPS and or not even higher FPS, or do you want a little bit lower FPS but even higher quality? So it's difficult to say exactly what's the best choice for you. But for hardcore gamers, plus it's usually 60 FPS or nothing. But the medium runs well and high runs really well on the 560 Ti, or well, the GeForce 580 will run high really well on 60 plus FPS. And it has everything enabled the high mode, except that some of them are not the absolute highest detail settings. So that's what we have ultra for, so it cranks up further. And where the shadows are a little bit sharper and the terrain is a little bit more pixelated. Also, we have the big setting that we have in Ultra is that our NDL setting. We use our multi-sampling there, which is really memory consuming and really performance consuming in general. But it looks better. It doesn't look giant. It's not a giant step in visual quality, but it still looks good. So if you have a multi-GPU machine, like the ones we're seeing here, like a Dual 580 or a Dual 560 for that matter, also Ultra, you can run at 60 FPS. And that's usually the way we get the games. But higher works perfectly. I did mention that the thing. That's something we've been spending quite a lot of time on. Because the thing is sort of, both from a visual point of view, it's annoying. It's something that flickers on the screen, you see pixels moving around, and it's not very pleasant to look at such pictures. But it's also annoying from a gameplay point of view because it distracts the eyes, your eyes. You sort of find these small crawlies, you get pretty used to it, but maybe you don't know the other things. But we've tried to spend quite a lot of time with this, and it's especially difficult with the bird shading because they can't use the traditional multi-sampling. The traditional MSA modes, we just record rendering and render with 8x MSA or something. We have to spend a lot more special care to do with deferred shading, because this G-buffer I talked about, that has to be rendered down to a much higher resolution level. So we have multiple options here. We have the deferred, yeah, you saw them in the graphics options. We have anti-aliasing deferred, as we call it, which is the MSA approach, using 2x or 4x anti-aliasing. It's really, having 4x is really running the game in double the width and double the height, pretty much. Probably some clever optimizations on top of that. Or we have the post-processing anti-aliasing approaches also, which we use FXAA, which is the NVIDIA currently not instead for NVIDIA drops. We have multiple color settings also. That's rendered at the ordinary resolution, and then it's a simple, well, not a simple effect, but complex post-processing effect where it's being added afterwards to try and fix up the picture. But once we added all these options, we also found that it makes a lot of sense actually to support both of these at the same time for the ultimate quality. That's what we use for Ultra also, to combine both of these, because MSA is really good at finding, fixing aliasing due to geometry detail being well, small type of geometry details or foliage or that type of thing. But it's not as good at fixing edges, because it's not done in HDR, that's MSA, it's done in an earlier stage, so it's not as good at fixing aliasing on very bright edges or things like that. So, but on the other hand, the post-processing DLC solution, that runs after the final pictures are rendered. So it runs in a different gamma space, and it finds those edges and smooths them out. But in itself, the FXAA is not that good at fixing aliasing due to thin geometry and stuff like that. So it's a combination of both makes it really good. But these are both completely optional features, but I think it looks good for what's happening. And yeah, I was talking with MSA, and here's one of the conversations we have for MSA is that we're just brute forcing and run the entire scene super sample, and we're only getting lighting 4 times for every pixel. That's extremely expensive. And extremely wasteful also, because you don't get that much detail, not much of it. So what we do instead is that we do selective super sampling for our lighting using MSA node. So we detect the edges that we actually have on the screen, and all these super sample those. So that significantly improves the performance of it. But it's still a big yeah, there's a couple of we're talking quite a bit of performance in the game. Typically when running games, when you guys run games, there's not really that many tools for tracking performance. There's quite different graphs you get like a small FPS counter, or you can run, there's a couple of tools that show the GPU and stuff like that, but they're not really that good or that detailed. And especially CPU performance over time is a little bit difficult to track. So we've added a couple of things and then to make it a little bit easier for hardware gamers. First of all, we've added a console, classic PC console. We have a whole bunch of console paths that can be activated. If I knew that was the feature that would get the most applause, we probably could have implemented that first and skipped all of the lighting stuff. So that's cool. We don't have huge amounts of console commands, but I think we can, well, actually, the engine has huge amounts of console commands. We have around 3,000 commands, but we don't expose all of them. We expose just a select few, I'm not sure, 100 of them something, because you can't use the visualization modes that I was using here to take screenshots, because someone will play and only show the normal maps or something. That would be a bit unfair, I would say. I hope you agree with that. And we also have like a track style FPS meter. That's very simple, just showing up the screen with activating console command.
Thank you.
And we also have this, which I haven't seen in any. This is part of our development tools. We have even more advanced tools also, but this is a very cool thing that we usually play games at all the time. It shows a graph, a yellow and a green graph. And the yellow graph is the CPU performance over each frame. Every pixel here, this is animated lines, every pixel is a frame. And the green is a GPU performance graph. So it counts in milliseconds. You can see spikes here in performance, although it can be difficult to track down exactly what it's like this. But you can at least see if you have super stable performance, or if you have some major problem, or things like that. And ideally talk about it more on forums or report it to us and things like that. So I think that can be quite helpful. And here's a zoom in on that. So we have the middle line sort of already have 30 FPS, and the line, a little bit further down is 60 FPS. And here, we see here, I got a couple of big spikes. I think the two earlier ones was when I took a screenshot myself, because then, it takes quite some time to actually take a screenshot. No, so that's pretty good. And then the final thing that I want to mention is our stereo rendering. Some of you guys probably already played with the green stereo here in the tournament. And that's actually something we've been working quite closely with the video with just now in the end of the project once everything is sort of coming together. Doing really proper stereo rendering support, because when you use deferred shading again and not do more traditional rendering process, you have to do it in a more custom way. You have to render two completely different pictures for the eye and not have it done automatically by darkers which the 3D Vision otherwise supports, because it doesn't work with the deferred shading. You instead have to implement it ourselves in the engine. And we've done that with Crossbar 2, that's in V3, which is cool. And we actually render these two frames completely in parallel also, so if you have a better, well, or even more CPUs, it scales up very nicely there. Which is great. It works with all the post-processing rates and everything we talked about here. But as for rendering everything twice, it's really heavy. So it needed really good quality. Ideally 2 GPUs or something. So that was a little bit relaxed. There's some here some things. I think personally, I think our game looks pretty sweet. I hope you guys agree. Yeah. Combine the massive Battlefield gameplay experience with the visual style and the great visuals that we have, and made it for PC, first and foremost. And this is just a start. All of this that we put into our engine, and there's many games with the EA and DICE going forward with those same engine. And I also think that we'll see quite a few other games that are sort of a little bit following our lead and these really confident PC versions going forward. So, future is bright.
Very cool. Well, thanks a lot. You guys appreciate that tonight? It's really our pleasure to have you here. And to help kind of cement our relationship, I want to give away some of those red raffle tickets. Are you guys what I'm thinking to do is, since we have this guy here, I want to impress him with fancy questions. So, does anybody have a good question? Let's start right here with our NVIDIA tattoo guy. What's your question? Okay, good question. Johan, the question is, how many man-hours went into the delivery of Battlefield 3?
Well, we have the entire DICE program. The DICE is 250 people. I'm not sure exactly so I'm not sure if I can say exactly how many man-hours, but yeah, I don't know.
So the answer is a lot.
Yeah.
A huge amount. You know what? That's worth a ticket. There you go. All right, here we go. We're right here. What's your question? You lose. Next question. All right, right here. Okay, excellent question. Yeah, excellent question. The question is, Johan, is there support for community-made maps or mods or something? How does that work?
Not really start, not really launch now. There are discussions and things we're thinking about going forward and we announced now, but we will think about something we know everyone wants that.
Yeah, not right now, but so excellent question, ladies and gentlemen. All right, I have one more ticket to give away. It's going to be over here. I think you have an excellent question. Let's hear it. Excellent question. So, Johan, we see a lot of weather in single player. Is there a plan to implement that in multiplayer?
Yes. There are multiple levels with weather effects.
Oh, that's awesome. So, yes, the answer is yes. And sure, you get circle. So now, let's put our hands together one more time for Johan. We're going to have myself and Ryan Schrock